Folks, welcome back inside the Parisi Palace, high above 2919 East Broadway. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, coming to you live on Power Talk. Please go to our website, powertalk.live. Download our free app and stream all of our live local programming, including Solomon on Blast, the Jim Parisi Show, and yours truly, the Jake Feinberg Show. And we thank you so much for making us part of your day today. And it is my honor to bring in a gifted rhythmist, a guy who can play in the pocket. He can play free. He came up before the drum machine. He came up before electronic music and digitization has been busted into our ears for the last 2 decades. He's played with a lot of luminaries, and he continues to this day. Joe Vitale, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time in the world it is.
Whatever time. I didn't know what time it was. Joe, thank you for stepping in last minute. Can you talk a little bit about any experience that you had early on in your, even before professionally, where you just were playing free on the trap set, just free?
Geez. Well, we grew up in, now, what do you mean by that term, though?
I mean, what I'm saying is that you weren't overly obsessed about where the one was. Maybe it was multiple trap sets. The point is you were just trying to create sound that felt good.
Right.
Felt good.
Well, what happened was, in the evolution of music, especially rock and roll, during the 50s was very pocket and beat oriented. And then the 60s, the same thing, early 60s. And all of a sudden you had groups like Cream, and you had Jimi Hendrix and The Doors, and different groups started experimenting with different time signatures and a lot of jamming, especially with Cream. And I remember seeing Cream in 1969, and it was like a 3-hour show, and a lot of playing and jamming, and they'd play the songs, but it seemed like it was trending like that. It seemed like music was headed that direction. And it didn't last real long because I think people wanted to get back to, the song, the lyric, the melodies, and of course, good guitar soloing and that kind of stuff. But the jamming thing kind of is a thing of the late 60s, early 70s. And, when we played today, I'm out with Joe Walsh, and we do a song called Turn to Stone, and that one song during the evening, he does stretch out a little, and we go into a really neat late 60s type jam, and people do love it, and but we don't overdo it. We don't do it on every song. Just one song a night, but just that one song, people kind of wait for it. So
no, it's
still popular.
I think you're right. I was talking to Al DiMeola yesterday, and he was just like, with the attention spans today, people are much more interested in composition than they are in free form. I'm just looking at you, multi-instrumentalist, you got timpani, percussion, gongs, vibraphones, drums. What I'm really getting at is this, Joe, is that a lot of the cats from the bebop and swing eras, bebop specifically, they were not using the bass drum for keeping time a lot. Sometimes they were using it for rebound, and they were dancing on the cymbals. And I wanted to know, can you talk a little bit about some of the cats that influenced your playing? And again, you might be playing more in a rock vein or more of a formulaic 4/4 kind of rock vein, but how those cats who were dancing on the cymbals, how they helped you sonically stretch your ears and help you become more of a melodic drummer.
Well, they played a whole different way than rock and rollers, and my father was a musician, and he exposed me to a lot of the old cats, and like Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich, people like that, and they had a thing where rock and roll. I think rock and roll demanded more footwork for big bottom and big grooves like that, but in the swing days, the hands were doing a lot more than the feet, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was more like the foot was like kind of an anchor as to where one is and that sort of thing, but it wasn't a big intricate part of the kit. It was more like if a bass, upright bass was walking, as they say, in 4/4, they were walking. The bass drum might just kind of tap along with that 4/4 thing, and the hands would do all the busy stuff. And rock and roll changed that a little bit, where hands were keeping straight 2 and 4 time, and the foot was starting to work a little bit more with a funky bass or something like that. But I've played both styles, and they're totally different and totally fun. They're way fun. Both of them are fun, but you can't intermingle them if you're going to play a swing style like old days, old big band. So you have to have music to play to like that, because it doesn't work in rock and roll. You won't get the job if you play like that with a rock band.
You're absolutely right. I mean, can you personalize it though and talk about? I'm intoxicated with. I talked to Ted Nugent. He's talking about going to see Yusef Lateef and Sun Ra, or being on the bandstand with Chuck Berry. I just love wrapping it all together, because music is the only universal language. Can you talk about a jazz context that Joe Vitale played in? I mean, or at least not something outside of the rock pop vein.
Well, before 1964, when I was really young, I played in my father's band with my brother, and we had a couple other guys, and we played nothing but jazz. And I was like 14, and my teachers taught me that, and I learned rock and roll from watching the Beatles and the Stones, and one of my favorite drummers, Dino Dinelli from the Young Rascals.
Mm-hmm.
And,
oh yeah.
And so that's where I learned my rock chops, but I was playing a lot. I also played a lot in orchestra at school, and we had a jazz band at high school, and I was exposed. I was very fortunate, very blessed. I was exposed to every kind of music there is because of my father, and it was a really great education, a really rounded education in it, and so I got to see both sides and play all styles, and I'll tell you what, everything I learned back then about all the different styles, I still use this very day. I use all that knowledge today, because you can imply different licks like that in rock, and you can imply rock licks in big band. And big band was powerful. I mean, it was like, rock and roll's real powerful, but if you ever go and listen to a 17-piece dance band, they're pretty powerful.
Huge. And that was, part of it is the pre-amplification. I mean, were you going to see Train in his modal period? I mean, can you these cats were just playing these, a lot of the journalists called it hate music, but that early 60s pocket was some of the most visceral. I mean, it has to feel good. It has to feel it has to feel good. Did you get
solid?
Yeah. I mean, did you get a chance to see the Philly Joe Joneses and the Kenny Clarks and the guys that really added the Max Road, the vocabulary, and they stretched the vocabulary of melodic improvisation?
Yeah, I did, and I used to see them up at Cleveland Hall in downtown Cleveland, and I actually won a contest and won a half-hour free lesson with Joe Morello back then, and that was quite an experience. He was pretty tough, but boy, did I learn from him, and that was an exciting time, and we had this contest, and apparently I won, and I got a free lesson with Joe Morello and up in Cleveland, and I mean, I learned a lot from listening to these guys. I didn't see all of them because a lot of those big bands didn't tour in my area a lot, and but I had every record that they were on, and all of them. And my favorite back then, obviously, was Buddy Rich. I mean, there was nobody like him back then.
No, I was going to say, did Morello let you even get on the trap set? Because Dom Fumolaro told me that he would drive 5 hours to New Jersey and play on a pad for 1 hour.
No, he actually did, and I know Dom. Yeah, that's pretty funny. But
yeah, no, I mean, because I mean, he was like, Joe, I'll pay you for extra hours. He goes, no, 1 hour's enough. You're fine. I mean, he's like, how do your hands? To me, these cats were like, they could say 4 words, and it was like the most prophetic stuff in the world.
Yeah, I know. But we did sit down at he played a little, then he gave me the sticks, and I was a nervous wreck, of course. And no, we had a trap kit in the room.
Did you wind up playing so many of the cats? Did you wind up playing for go-go dancers? Did you wind up in burlesque houses early on? I mean, these were verifiable gigs. They were legitimate gigs for musicians. Today, you have younger cats. You got to pay to play. You can play for the door. But back then, I'm just curious about some of these alternative gigs before you started marinating in the studio scene.
No, I wasn't allowed to do that. I would have gotten caught. I would have been really, that would have been in trouble. But I did get calls to play those gigs. But right after the Beatles run Ed Sullivan, it changed everybody's life. It changed the world. And I immediately got into a rock band, and we were never playing at those kind of places. We were playing at teen dances, and there was lots of work in the '60s. I feel bad for musicians today. There's nowhere near as many places to work, and so we had plenty of work. We had to turn down jobs, and there were all these teen dances, and I don't know whatever happened to all that, but it went away. And today, young bands you're right, they have to pay to play, which is, to me, is dumb. And I mean, you got to do it, but it doesn't make any sense, and you work for the door, or you got to sell tickets, or whatever it is. It's like just totally different now than what we had.
I think because in a lot of ways people look at music, everything needs to be quantified now in this bottom line society, and you can't quantify music. You can't quantify that spiritually. So therefore, it's become an art form and less about a profession. But
right.
I don't know if did you ever run across the great drummer Alphonse Mouzon? But
no, I don't know him. I know, of course, of him, but I don't know him. No.
I want to read you something because you are a multi-instrumentalist, and I keep saying here you're playing a lot of flute. But
yep.
This is what he said, and I want just you to riff on this. He said, when I'm playing drums, I'm not just playing the drum rhythms. I'm playing the melodies, trying to support the soloist and trying to inspire. I'm playing chords with my drums. And he says, as a pianist, I can hear. I know where the soloist is going. Rest in peace, Al Mouzon. Can you riff on that? I mean, do you play chords with your drums?
I don't call it that, but I know exactly what he's saying. I play melodically with the music. I don't just play time, and it really makes a difference to play like that. And I've heard guys that play that they're amazing players. They got great chops, but for some reason they're not playing. They're playing time, and they're not playing music. They're just playing time. And there's a lot you can do with a drum kit, and we don't have notes per se as a piano or a guitar, but we do have tones, and we have different pitches, and there's time and place for all of it. We got a lot of stuff up there we hit, make it mean something.
Well, no, I mean, you said there's a big difference. I mean, is the difference just between, is it about feel? Ultimately, Buddy Rich, I mean, I talked to Mike Mainieri. He said that one time, I mean, all these cats were showing up for Buddy Rich drum, they'd come see him in Chicago for 3 days, and they were coming to see his signature drum solos. Mainieri said he played time on the cymbals for 3 straight days. It's like,
well, that's nice.
But I guess what I'm saying is that, how, in your mind, where was the growth spurt for you in terms of when you decided, when you were able to feel that you were able to play melodically on the drum kit? Was there a point in your early career when you can talk about that?
Well, yeah. I mean, pre-Beatles, brought a lot of awareness to a lot of things, and they weren't just the Fab Four that were this trend thing. They were geniuses, and if you really look at their catalog, it's beyond belief. And when you start listening to what Ringo did and some of the drummers in the mid '60s, the '50s and early '60s, the drums were nothing but just pure pocket, and just because a lot of people were dancing to all that music, and it had to be pure pocket. Then what happened was in the '60s, people got a little bit more off the dance floor and in their seats, sitting and listening, and things changed musically for the drummers because all of a sudden it was more of an instrument than a timepiece, and I think that's what happened. As if I remember right, I mean the '50s and early '60s, there were way more people dancing. Now it seems like people are dancing again, but there was a huge time period, many years, where from probably '65 to '75, somewhere in there, a whole decade, where people weren't exactly dancing as much. And then all of a sudden, disco happened in the mid '70s, and people were back on the dance floor. But for many years, people were just listening, and so the music changed, and we were all playing a little bit more melodic and more listenable stuff instead of just pure pocket.
No, I mean you're riffing like, and I know you got to go. I just wanted to ask you. Rick Marotta told me that when the drum machine came out, drummers then started, as before, where you were intoxicated with Buddy Rich and Gene Krupa. You could put on a record. I did 2 interviews with Bill Cosby before the world caved in on him, and he said he could put on a jazz record. He could tell you right away whether it was Pete LaRocca, Max Roach, Kenny Clark.
Oh yeah, style.
Everybody had style.
Yeah.
But then what Marotta said to me that was a revelation was that essentially once the drum machine came out, instead of individuals trying to comp other individuals, they were trying to comp a machine, which is why you can't tell who's drumming these days. Can you riff on that?
Well, even if you have a great drummer like Vinny Cayuta or any of the guys out there, Dennis Cheney, these guys, a lot of times, I blame the engineers and producers sometimes because they don't take, not all of them, but some of them don't take time to get great drum sounds, so there's a thing called, in Pro Tools, there's a thing called sound replacement. So it's not even your drums. You might be playing, but it's different sounds. And you hit a snare drum and they trigger another snare drum off of a computer. It's not even you. So you lose all the dynamics and you lose all the personality. And, the way a guy hits a snare drum is there's a personality there. I mean, I can tell you the difference between Ringo hitting a snare drum and John Bonham hitting a snare drum. You can hear it. And there's a personality that goes along with your playing, and what computers and machines have done is taken that away. And it's really sad because, humans are not perfect. And that's perfect to me, that humans are not perfect. And machines are, and I just can't feel them like I can feel, the time and the sense of a real drummer. And, I think people have gotten soft and a little bit, maybe a little lazy, and I say that politely.
Sure.
That back in the day, we used to, record a track, and then if it wasn't quite feeling right, I would do another take, and then another take, and then 6 more takes. And at some point, you'll get it, even though sometimes after 10 takes, you got to stop and do it tomorrow, But we would work until we got it, and then there was nothing like it. Nowadays, it's like, we'll fix it in the mix. We'll fix it in Pro Tools. We'll tune the vocal. It's really kind of sad that we've replaced real pure talent with technology. And so I'm a little bit tired of that. I'm like, you know what? I'd rather spend another hour on this track. I'll get it, but give me another hour, I'll get it, and than to repair everything I did or fix this or new sounds on the toms. It's like it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's
no,
like,
I mean, can you with Roller Coaster, a legendary album? I still have a sealed copy of it. I was born in '78. Okay, and I'm just all I'm trying to do is get my daughters to understand how real music is made. What was the preferred miking of your drum kit? Because like cats like Glyn Johns, it wasn't about. It's really analog digital. The Pro Tools thing is legit, but it's more about the miking. I mean, in the past, the classic producers, they'd get the sound of the room with the people inside of it. before they
Right.
actually, and you just talk about your ideal, because the sound on your drums from those, and we haven't even gotten into the CSN stuff, but I mean, it's just warm, man. You can hear it because it's sparse. It's not so layered. I mean, you just riff on, can you talk about the idea, what you think is ideal miking, or what made that warm sound so warm?
Well, first of all, it was tape. Let's start there, because it wasn't digital. And I mean, I appreciate digital. I appreciate Pro Tools. It's fantastic. But, there is a sonic difference between tape, and I don't care how many plugins you got and all that, and everybody in this business will say the same thing, at least my age they will. And there's a huge difference between tape and digital, and the thing that suffers the most in digital is drums, because the ballistics are taken away. There's no tape saturation. If you saturate digital, it just stops working. It craps out. It doesn't like that. Where tape, you could push it pretty hard, and it would just get this squashed, incredible, great sound, huge, big, warm sound. And because it was analog, it was a different monster. It's like a whole different world. And so when we did, based on, there's a certain type of microphone that most engineers and producers use, and there's some variants in this and that and the other, but basically they're pretty much the same for all the years. And then, back in the day, we not only had tape, but we had great mic pre's and all that. Now they're starting to come back with so much of that. Vinyl is coming back. I mean, I think people that are very aware, especially sound people that are like real music listeners and lovers, they do hear the difference. And vinyl's coming back a little bit. I doubt tape will come back because it's too expensive, and Pro Tools and all the digital formats have, so much. There's so much you can do in there, but I wish there was a little bit better marriage between them. I still wish we still had tape, but we could do the editing and stuff in Pro Tools and digital and all that, and some of the effect, because the editing in digital today surpasses tape by miles. It is way better and way easier. And but as far as miking, back in the day, I did a session not too long ago, and they had just a normal mic sound, but it was a tape session, which was very thrilling to walk into the studio and see them lining up a 2-inch Studer machine. And when I heard the playback of the first song, and I came in the control room and listened to the playback of the drums, it sickened me how great it was. It was like, damn, what happened to it? How did we ever let this technology go? And because the drums, you have to work really hard with digital to get them to sound fat and warm and all that.
I know. I love the fat and warm. Can you talk? What do you mean ballistics? Because people.
The ballistics are when you hit a drum hard, it moves way more air, and the speakers actually move physically, and that's analog. Digital, they do, but nowhere near like analog, and you get this gushy, crunchy, amazing sound. And we didn't even try to get the drums to sound good, and they sounded amazing. In other words, there was no EQ, hardly any balance, and just to put the mics up, hit play on and record on the tape machine, and let's go. And I walked in the studio, and it just depressed me so much that, my God, what a sound on the drums! And we didn't even try to get them yet. We didn't even go there yet as far as EQ and this and that. It was just the raw sounds off the mics into a great mic pre's onto tape, and it was amazing. And as it really saddened me, it was like, my God, how do we lose this to digital? I understand how we did, but why? I don't know why we can't have both, because all these young people recording, and they're trying to get these drum sounds and all that. Good luck. You're never going to get them like tape. Forget it. It'll never be like tape. And they can come close, I must say, and the plugins are getting way better. They're getting much better, but they're having to really work hard at it, and a lot of cost at some of these plugins and this and that and the other. And we didn't have to deal with that. We just throw mics up and hit play and record, and it was awesome.
Well, I mean, but you're also speaking to authenticity, because I'm not trying to take a bag on people today, but it's like, you got people now, they're not even really good musicians. Someone sings.
You don't have to be.
They don't. You can sing a song. You say you tell the engineer, how'd I sound? They say terrible. We'll come up and fix it. That's the part that's really disturbing, man. It's not. I don't care how good the plugins become. You're masking authenticity. I mean, Stephen Stills. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's a feeling of a confidence in your abilities, and I don't know how some of these people can feel that. There's no way some of these people can feel that. Drummers that can't play and they're out of time and they fix it and they sound like they're in time. Singers who have no business singing, and they sing and then they tune everything up and then they shadow the vocals with real singers. And I mean, it's just,
they ghosted.
Yeah,
I did.
Yeah, they ghosted. And it used to be about talent, and that's gone. And of course, there is talent out there, and there's some great talent. I really like the shows, The Voice, America's Got Talent, all those TV shows, because you can't fool around with those shows. You're out there naked with a microphone, and you got to be good. And I'm thankful that there's a show like that expose real talent, and not just finding some great-looking girl or great-looking guy and say, you know what, we can make you a star. You don't have to have any talent. And it's just gross that so many people work so very hard on their skills and their gifts, and they develop them, and they pay dues, and sometimes they get a chance or break in life, and sometimes they don't. But there's real talent there. I can't imagine the lack of confidence level in some of these young people that, like, come on, how can you feel good about yourself when you suck and they fixed it?
Well, I think listen, man, it's called spiritual capitalism. I mean, there's no more, spirit is not the currency anymore, right? Because you're getting, before, Joe, can we do part 2 next week when it's not as, I'm sorry, I really appreciate you stepping in here, but can we?
Yeah, because I do have to go in, and we're doing a sound check, and Joe Walsh says hi, everybody, and he's waiting for me. So,
all right. Well, listen, I'll reach out to you. Maybe we can set something up for part 2 because we got more to do.
Yeah, love talking to you, man. Let's give me a call next week. We'll talk some more.
Love always, Joe. Have a good session.
All right, thank you, buddy.
Later on now.
Bye.
All right, we're just heard from Joe Vitale, Mike Clark before, and we are now going to try to reach back out to Steve Grossman, although I believe his ringer is off or he is just too scared to come on the Jake Feinberg Show. We'll be right back.